it is limitless in where you can take it, because it involves something that, 20 years ago was so amazing. Now, with the days of the internet and
archive material
and all that kind of stuff that's available now, the technology now, a computer that size was unthinkable. Now you have one that's no bigger than your palm.
So I remember watching $1 Billion Brain. You had these huge rooms full of computers doing various things, and as you say, be on your watch now.
And when you think of some of the Pertwee stories, that were set in computer rooms, and there were endless banks.
Running from one end to the other to bed above.
So, I think it was kind of limitless in its potential, but definitely a mixture, half and half, half Earth, half alien.
We've got enough time for just one more question. There's a gentleman over there with his hand up. Paul.
It's a question for John. Some of the dialogue you had with Tom Baker as when you were K9 were inspired. Did you and Tom ever discuss what you were going to say? I think of the game of chess when you...
I think we had something that was called a script that some of us loosely kept to, and some didn't. There were certain scenes that had certain dynamics behind them which we felt would work somewhat better than the script had suggested for our lines. I'm thinking of chess sequences, for example. I can't remember the name of the story now, but it was some wonderful chess dialogue that we played a match together, and I think we developed that a little bit. Tom, as we know, had quite fixed, firm ideas as to how the script should work. But I think he had some quite good ideas too, because the tendency was quite often for the Doctor to be given great screeds, great heroic purple prose to utter as the lead character. And Tom would say, this is wild, this is baffle-gab, and he'd throw the scripts around. He'd say, look, why not? I say that bit, you say that bit, you say that bit, and you say that bit. Then we blow some air into it, and lift it. And actually it worked. John very helpfully saw the validity of that. But the tendency may have been on a small degree for us to criticise script editors for not really having done their work as fully as they perhaps should have done.
Ladies and gentlemen, on that note, can you please thank Mr. John Nathan Turner, Mr. Steve Camden, John Leeson, and Elizabeth Slater. John, does anybody want photos? If anybody wants to take a photo quickly with the guests, please feel free. Yeah.
Huddle together.
Closer to me. Do you remember, anyone remember that number? No, you're far too young. And I can't sing anyway. Oh.
Hi, everybody.
Hello, here we are back at the Leofric again.
Happy as can be.
Can you see us through this smoke screen?
Yeah. I'd like to be sort of filmed with Marlene Dietrich, who was filmed through or something, wasn't she? Do you know what I'm talking about? Because I don't know what I'm talking about.
Does it make you look younger?
I hope so. Right, okay, Doctor Who in the early years.
What's this? You've got the little clock to time us?
That's the little clock so that we don't...
Will it go off when we run out?
We'll explode. Okay, so the first stop would be Nicholas, your guest appearance in the Dalek Master Plan. What memories do you have of being cast as Brett Byron?
Who was he?
Well, it's Pat Troughton. You said so long ago. It really is just a long time ago, too. Well, now, I wonder how much everyone knows already. I mean, the fact that I'd already been up for a part. Look, you've got to be very honest. You've got to stop me if you've heard this before. If you've heard this before too often, the majority have. All you have to do is shout out, boring, and I'll stop. Not yet. Give it a break. Douglas Camfield, who directed the Dalek Master Plan, had seen me for another part, the Crusades, which Julian Glover got eventually, and I didn't get that. And that was right, because Julian was much better casting than I was. But Doug remembered me, and then he cast me for Brett Byrne, 4 episodes, and I was killed off, that's right, by that Jean Marsh, that sister. And I'd watched the program before I ever did it, when I first started watching television around about 1962 or something. And I loved it because I love the history side of it. Okay, the Dalek Master Plan wasn't so much history, which is why it might have been more fun for me to do Lionheart, because I love history, but there you are. But I loved all the historical ones, going back in time to different periods of history. And how did it start? Did we do pre-filming first at Ealing? Maybe we did. But I remember we had to crawl around in the studio on lots of leaves. I remember doing that with Brian Cant. He was in it. He played my Oppo in Dalek Master Plan. He also got killed off in the Dalek Master Plan, I think, at some point. Before me, maybe. I lasted for 4 episodes. It was very long. Was it 12 episodes? Was it
12, yes.
So
12.
what? Tell me. So what you were before you were doing the other fella?
Very good. She's very good.
It's as good, isn't it? You were in it with Bill.
Yes, I was very good with Bill. Yes,
As a different character.
Oh, yeah, different character.
Oh,
yes.
That's really interesting.
Before Pat.
Wow.
Yes.
Because normally they didn't do that. They wouldn't let people play 2 parts, would they?
No, but that was blessing. That was Douglas Camfield, who went later with Colonel, with Pat Troughton. Well, I'll jump for a moment, actually, because when he was doing the Web of Fear with Pat, I was going to play Captain Knight. I mean, don't forget to shout out boring if you've heard this before. I was going to play
They're English. They're
Captain...
much too polite. They're not going to... Hang on, I've got to get...
Get water, right? I shall wait. No, I'm entranced looking at you. I can't. Why do you... No, I've got to wait for you. Not a chat-up line, my word. In the Web of Fear, I was going to play Captain Knight, who again got killed off. And the actor who was going to play Colonel Lithbridge Stewart, David Langton, didn't do it or couldn't do it at the last moment. So Douglas rang me up and said, will you play the Colonel instead of the Captain? If David Langton had played that part, the whole of my life would have been totally different.
David Langton,
Yes.
I remember, because I knew him when I was about 2 or 3, where I lived in the country, and he was my little boyfriend, and we used to sit together and kiss and read little comics. And then read comics.
What a life she's had.
Has anyone heard that one
I
before?
wrote to him later and said, do you remember this? Can I work for you? But I never heard back.
Yes, so I know, you're right, it isn't often. Usually if an actor play one part, he probably wouldn't play another part, but there was a gap of 1965 to 1968, about 3 years, but it was all right, apparently. Innes Lloyd, I think, was the producer at the time, and Douglas said, can we have Nicholas for this part? And he said, yes, but he doesn't look old enough to be a colonel, so you've got to put a moustache on him, which is why the moustache happened anyway, I suppose.
How old were you at the time?
How old was I at the time?
17 and a half, going on 18.
No. 39, 40, something like that.
So how
I'm very
old?
old now, you know. I'm not telling you how old. Very, very old, though. Very old, very old.
It's all right, we're both antiques.
But that's how it happened. Yes, it was largely, it must have been, because Douglas Camfield, who, he was a great military man, as some of you may know. He really did everything by the book. He was in the army. He was a second lieutenant. When I was in the army, I was only a private. And he thought that I was just right for army officers, and I played a lot of them since, although I was a private in the army, but he thought I was dead right for these army officers. And so I've been playing a lot of them before and since. And so I was allowed to play both parts, yes. I don't know why, but I was.
Yeah, it's interesting, because just having been with Colin Baker, this last week I was in Australia, me and Colin, and he was saying that he got a part, and his agent said, too bad, because this means you'll never play the Doctor. Yeah.
Same with him. Yes, because that's right, he played a villainous character.
Yeah.
And then he took over the Doctor, so these things can happen. Yes, and what more
What
would you
were we
like to
talking
know?
about?
Where was I?
Where
You
were
covered
you?
your whole career there. in 5 minutes.
Memories. Well, I remember we rehearsed in a garage opposite the television centre, and but it was above a garage in the rehearsal room. And it was toward the end, Bill was not too well, a bit tetchy, and he didn't really like working in this rehearsal room very much. But nevertheless, he did. He was a bit tetchy, but he took to me, Bill, for some reason. I don't know. He was a bit bigoted, as you probably know. But he thought I was so the acme of all Englishmen. Acme of all Englishmen, although I grew up in France, Egypt, Kenya. I didn't grow up in this country at all. I don't come from anywhere in England. But he thought I was very English, so I was all right. And then he said, you've got the wrong agent, he said to me. I said, really? He said, yes, you've got the wrong agent. You better come with my agent, which was Terry Carney, Jessica Carney's father, who of course was Bill's son-in-law. That's right, isn't it? Yeah.
Yes.
Yes, that's right.
So did you?
So I went to Terry Carney, and didn't work for a year. So I went back to my previous agent. But didn't work at all. But Bill said, no, you're with the wrong agent. You must come with this agent. But it didn't matter. Terry Carney didn't mind. It just didn't work out. So I went back to my previous agent.
So can I ask another question?
Yes, I just shut up now, because that's all my memories of Bill at the moment.
No, because what I want to know is, how was it for you working with him?
It was fine. But he liked me, so it was fine. But people he didn't care for, he could be a bit sort of short with, or whatever. But you knew him better than I did.
Well, because the thing was that when I started working with him, it was a nightmare, really, you know, because he was so bad-tempered and he was so, he would fly off the handle at the slightest thing. So rehearsals were not fun at all, you know. You went along every day, it was like work, you know, it was like work. You went along and you had to I had to mind my P's and Q's. And although he was never actually nasty to me, but he was nasty to everybody else around you, so, you know, you had to be very careful.
Yes.
And I remember that rehearsal room because there were, it's the same with me, if you've heard the story, tough. I'm going to tell it again anyway. Never mind, don't shout boring. But there were these blokes working in the street outside that.
Yeah.
And, you know, I was an old lefty, I still am, and this was really hard to take, this kind of,
He was very sort of
racist kind
bigoted.
of carry on.
Very, very good doctor. Very good
Yes.
doctor he was, Bill.
Yes.
And very good actor. Very good actor. But by the time I worked with him, he was getting pretty ill anyway. So, but it didn't impinge on me very much. I think what I like about the Dalek Master Plan so much, I loved Kevin Sterney. Do you remember him? Maverick Chen, wonderful character. He then did another story
With you again?
With me again, yes. Tobias Vaughan. Kevin Sterling used to sort of kill people by putting his little finger like that, and that vaporized them or something like that. By the way, can I ask you something? Are we all right, us two, with the microphones? Are we too near them? Can you hear all right, or? Yeah. It's okay?
They're all going to sleep.
Wake up, wake up! Oh, I like to talk like that, you see. I might as well keep the microphone like that. Talk softer.
So I've got another question, because it's interesting. See, I've never sat up on a panel with Nick before like this, so this is interesting. So what I want to know is, my next question is, what was it like, because I was asked this, and I realised I was there at the time, but I didn't know, what was it like for Bill being ousted by Pat? I don't remember. Does anybody know about this?
Bill being ousted by Pat? I don't think Bill was ousted. I think he just came to the end of his contract.
Well,
didn't
I
he?
know, but
Well,
at the same time, there we were in rehearsals with Pat, you know, doing the regeneration thing, and so I was asked this, and I couldn't really remember if Bill felt put out by the fact that he was being succeeded by somebody who was patently, obviously, much more fun and much more, people immediately, took to him. It must have got up his nose.
I don't know. I wonder if he did, because Pat always spoke very warmly about Bill.
He did.
He spoke very warmly about him.
He did.
I don't know. I just don't know, because I wasn't around at that time, because Pat had had the part for some time before I joined. So I don't know the answer to that one. I don't know. I don't know. I think Bill had come to the end of his contract, and I don't think he wanted to do any more. And the BBC decided that it was going to work, and then a new doctor. I'm not sure.
No, and I should know because I was there. But at the time, you don't know that it's going to be history, so you're not sort of noticing those things really. You don't know that 35 years later you're going to be asked these questions.
That's something.
Or that 35 years later you'd be up the Harbour Bridge in Sydney with Colin Baker,
That's something I was going to say. Could you have imagined when you took like a guest role in Dalek Master Plan, or when you took your role as Polly, that this was something which is going to stay with you like we're in the next century now? If someone had said at that time, this is going to stay with you for the rest of your life, what would you have thought?
I must say, you're very kind to say it was a guest role. I would like to be slightly more honest and say it wasn't a guest role. I was an actor who was glad to have work. Seriously, at that time, the Dalek Master Plan in '65, I wasn't known at all on television. I'd done lots and lots of theatre work before, but I wasn't that well known. It was just another job, and I thought, oh well, I'm going to get killed off, what a shame. There you are. I've done a Doc 2, and that's the end of Doc 2 for me. I was wrong, quite wrong. So it was just, and it was very enjoyable working with Douglas, who was a consummate professional and very good, and he loved actors, and it was fun doing it. As I say, Bill happened to like me, so I didn't get rough edge of his tongue.
Would you like to ask these guys if they've got any questions as we go along?
We will do.
Yeah, we will do. Okay, sorry.
Don't worry.
No, but it might come out of what we're talking about. Well, okay.
You'll be storing up questions there.
I'm sure they will. Okay, so Annika, you came to the programme as a regular. So what are your memories of being cast and joining the crew at the
Well,
time?
because the thing was that my hubby had already played the Toymaker. So I had already, I absolutely watched every Saturday. It was already, so it's always exciting to move into, and kind of daunting to move into a series that was already very successful. In the same way that it was slightly daunting to get into like the Avengers or the Saint. And yet, you see, in the Avengers, like Pat McNee, Honor Blackman, and Diana Rigg all made actors feel extremely comfortable when you went on set. They went out of their way to make you feel at home, and Bill didn't. So it was scary. So at the same time, like Nick says, as an actor, you're pleased to get the work, and as a sort of high-profile thing, it was definitely. It was a good high-profile thing for me to go in as the companion and so on. But as I say, it wasn't fun. It was hard work, and it was one was always on sort of tippy toes around Bill, and so it wasn't that much fun. As far as I remember, and that's why Mike and Craze and I bonded together very much, because we had to be a sort of team to kind of
You found yourself in the same position.
Yes, right, to support each other. And it's amazing to me how, when the regeneration happened, and when we then got Pat Troughton, how everything, it was like night and day. How everything completely turned around, and all of a sudden, you couldn't wait to get to work, because you were just going to have such a giggle all day, Largely to do with the fact that we were drinking at lunchtime was a lot to do with the giggling in the afternoon, but then it was
Drinking at lunchtime, that's something I've never done, isn't
Of course not.
But it is absolutely right about Pat and Fraser when I joined, and Debbie. It was just as joyous because they made you so well. Pat immediately, didn't take me a second before I got on with Pat, and immediately it was delightful, and we'd all be playing cards in the next room, rehearsal room, and Dougie would say, "Are you going to come work?" And so Fraser would say, "We just finished this game, don't worry." We'd come, we know the lines, and then sometimes we knew the lines, usually we knew the lines, but It was immediately such fun.
Yeah.
And they were very good. You're right about the adventures. I did two of those. First one was with...
On the Blackman.
yes, it was, although I never actually met her. Nor did I meet Diana Rigg, actually, because they filmed, as you know, your part separately. But Pat McNee was delightful, lovely, great fun to work with, and it was fun to do. Yeah.
Did you do a saint as well? Did you?
Oh, 3 saints.
3 saints.
Well, at least 2, I think.
All different characters.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yes. With Roger, I did 2 with Roger Moore. That's right, 2 saints with Roger Moore.
He was terrible because he sent everybody up the whole time. I mean, again,
Yes.
these dreadful jokes that he would do all day long. These
And he's got
practical
an
jokes.
amazing memory, because having done the second saint with Roger, when I did a film about 3-4 years ago, a terrible film directed by Michael Winner called Bullseye, or I think it was called Bullseye. It was Bull something else, I won't say it, because it wasn't a very good film. But Roger came up to me after years and said, haven't seen you for a long time. I mean, and he remembered me, which did surprise me, because it'd been a hell of a long time since the Saint, mid-60s to mid-90s. And I didn't play a very big part in the Saint, but he was lovely, Roger.
He nicknamed me immediately Knickers.
He what?
His nickname for me immediately was Knickers.
Knickers,
as soon as
was
I
it?
walked on the set. Annika, oh, hi, Knickers, what?
I don't know what he called me. Yes, he called me in the first one I did. I was playing a policeman. He called me Big Boots, and I sort of, how dare he call me Big Boots? But I mean, he was only joking. The second one I can't remember, because a lot of those things you did at ABPC at Boreham Wood, Champions, all those things which have been repeated and that sort of thing. I used to play lots of villains in those days. I yearn for the time when I play a villain again. In my early days, I played lots of villains. They're great fun to play.
Fun. Yeah, it's fun
Great
playing
fun.
villains.
Played nasty doctors and sinister people. Great fun.
I want to play a Wicked Witch and a Panther this Christmas. Either that or a fairy, I don't mind.
Okay, back to Doctor Who. When you
Sorry.
No, that's okay.
Oh,
No, it's fascinating.
we're not tied by a
We're
definite
certainly
script, are we?
not.
Oh, no, but
Definitely not.
Looking, you know.
Oh, you've got to have a look in. As long as I can get the gorilla story in before we finish.
So when you came back for Web of Fear, it was effectively another guest role, Nick?
Web of Fear, yeah.
Yes. So how did it compare when you did Masterplan? Was the atmosphere on the set a lot different? Did you?
Yes, it was much easier at Web of Fear, because what we've just been talking about with Pat and Fraser and Debbie, it was much more relaxed. Very hard work. You had to do a show a week. We had a lot to do. That was the days when Lime Grove was open, black and white. And it was always a hard schedule, but it was always, because of Pat Troughton, it was always, everyone felt enormously comfortable. We worked hard, we played hard, and we laughed hard, and we enjoyed it. And it's jolly nice to do a job that you enjoy and get paid for it. That's lovely.
And when did you realise that this part was going to become a recurring role?
Well, I didn't know until after Web of Fear, when John Pertwee was going to take over from Pat, they formed the idea of unit, and I had no idea. And they said to me, would you like to have a 2-year contract and with John, who's joining? And I jumped at the chance because my daughter was about to be born. So I thought, great, 2-year security. So I loved the idea. Leapt at the chance, and then it just happened. Then we did that story with Pat, the invasion of Cybermen, and then that was to see where the idea of unit would work. And then when John joined, he was exiled to Earth, and the unit story is based on Earth. It was lovely.
Right.
He's right.
I thought you were going to say something very profound there.
Very profound. I probably was, but it went out of my mind.
It went out of your mind. Never mind.
What can you tell us about the way television was made back in the 60s even, from rehearsal to recording, and how it compares with today?
Well, one of the things was that for me was the fear when you were actually in the studio when it came, because it was like doing live telly, wasn't it? Because although it was being taped, they didn't like to cut the tape because it was very expensive, Ampex tape, wasn't it? So they would only really cut it for the technical people. So they didn't like to cut it if you as an actor had just ballsed it out. So what you did was, if it was really bad for you, and you know, what you did was you swore, because then they'd have to cut the tape. So
Yes, they would.
Say loudly, "Oh shit!"
Any
and then
choice
they'd have to say-
four-letter word will do. Any choice four-letter word.
So it was nerve-wracking, and I remember that, and it still happens to me now, because when I hear the music, there's still a memory of that, that for some reason or other, you know, fear always happens in different parts of the body, and for me, it happened in my hands. And I used to stand like inside the TARDIS, inside the police box, I have to come out, or in the wings, or wherever it was, and they'd be going to diddle-a-dum, and this pain would come in my hands. And
Yes, it's the music that
and each week I would think, I don't know why I do this for a living, I must be mad, because it's so... And then as soon as you came onto the set,
It's fine.
you were in your power, you know, wow. And then it's like if the studio is going to collapse, or there's an earthquake or something, it's like, you know, prop it up, I've got to say my lines here, you know. There was no way that would stop you. But prior to that was always the fear.
Yes, you're right. A lot of people said, fans of Doctor Who and other people, that, you know, how the music they found very alarming, that got them going as viewers. And you're absolutely right. It was when we started recording, you think, deep breath, and when the music started, that was when indeed your palms got a bit sweaty. But just, well, I'm giving what you said, once you're on, it's fine, and sailing along, stop, something goes wrong. I mean, you're a human being. If something goes wrong, they can't shoot you. Couldn't shoot the brigadier, wouldn't dare.
But prior to that, I remember doing live tellies, and that you'd be sitting there, having your rabbit away to your person, and all of a sudden you'd see out of the corner of your eye somebody going like this, or sets wobbling, and this was live telly, and you had to continue. It was so exciting. It was really, for me now, like a meditation, because you're totally in the moment. You can't possibly afford to space out. You know, sort of cameras getting lost and things around, or coming through the wrong door, and you just had to continue. It was very, very exciting.
Yeah.
These actors nowadays, you know, they get lazy, you know, because you just snip it and go back and...
Did you do much? I don't think I ever did much live. Well, no, Darling Masterplan, no, that wasn't live. I mean, the first Bill one was live, wasn't it? Because I remember, if you've seen Unearthly Child, you know, and the fluffs that went on, that must have been, well, they didn't stop. The fluff stayed in. Funnily enough, I don't think it ever mattered, because seeing An Unearthly Child, the very first one, and there were a couple of fluffs, whoever it was, it didn't destroy from the whole story. It didn't bother me particularly. You were aware that something fluffed, but it didn't matter. I don't think it mattered.
You see, the thing is, I'm so old that I was doing telly where you did the Sunday children's play, and you went on Thursday as well. So you did it on Thursday, and then you went back and you did it again on Sunday. And that was all live. And I remember the first one, because I think I was about 11. And it was my first, I don't know what it was called, but I had to wear shorts, and my kneecaps started wobbling, and that was really embarrassing, because I got these sort of weak kneecaps all going, blah, 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 you know. And I said to this woman, lovely woman actress, "Oh God, I'm so scared." And she was saying, "There's nothing to be worried about." And then in the scene, she has to hand me a cup and saucer, and the cup and saucer is rattling, and then I lost it. Holy shit, you know, she's as scared as me, you know. But this was very, very early days. I mean, I don't know, 52, early days of telly. It was all those funny sort of boxes that we lot used to watch.
I just remember the only live television
Alexander Palace we did it in.
Did you do it in Nally
Yes.
Palace? It's not where I live, yes, I
And
never
I
did.
tell you what, I did an Elizabethan one where they had to wear this beautiful little hattie, and the hattie came on, and it actually clipped in my ears, and I couldn't hear my cue.
Yes, the only live one I ever did was for Associated Rediffusion was the company at the time, and it was live actually. It was a children's program called O Capel Day. It was all about Charles II hiding from the Roundheads in the Civil War, and he was hiding up a tree in this O Capel tree. And there was one scene where Charles, I was playing Charles II, always had ambition to play regal parts, you see. I was playing Charles II, and he was riding out of town with his girlfriend on the back of the horse. So we were in this little studio in Associated Rediffusion, and this is what I did in front of the camera to simulate riding out of town, escaping the Roundheads. In front of this camera, and this was going out. This is what I had to do.
Rude.
What else could you do? There was no horse in the studio. That was my only live one, I think.
Well, I've got another story. This is so good because it brings up. I was had to do on a horse, and we had sort of. The thing was that one had to sort of gallop away into wherever it was, and I'm sitting on this horse who's like his neck is hanging forward like this, and I'm thinking, holy shit, because I'm a rider, how am I going to get this horse to to gallop? And then they said, okay, action, and the horse went galloping off. He knew the word action. It was amazing, from a sort of dead creature to this wild, and I was, hanging on the edge of the saddle.
Have you always been a good rider? Yes. I never was, because when I was young, once when I was thrown twice, and then I tried to get rid of my fear of horses, and I'm a Sagittarian, by the way, and when I was in the army, again, I said I must get on a horse. And so when I was on leave in Germany, I got on this horse, and it took about an hour, and just walking around, very, very slowly. And in that hour, I couldn't wait to get off the horse. There was nothing. So I then thought to myself, well, let's face it, you don't ride. You can't ride, and it's no good because the horse will know if you're scared. So these days I only back horses. I don't ride them. Well, I would say straight away, I always liked working for the bee. Maybe, slightly less since John Burt sort of wrecked everything. But, hello, John. Oh, Lord Burt. Gosh. Because the BBC always treats you very well. They may not have paid you huge amounts of money, but they were, in the best sense of the word, paternalistic. They looked after you. If you were in trouble, in any sort of... they were very compassionate, the BBC. They didn't pay you lots of money, but they weren't so cutthroat. And, the BBC, that's why it saddened me what happened in the last 10 years or so, because it's lost its, as I've written in my book, it's a precious identity. It had an identity. It's a great shame to see that identity go. So I liked working for the BBC, and most of the work I've done on television has been for the BBC. I like working for the BBC very, very much indeed.
Yeah, I think the same for me, because most of the work I was doing was for the BBC, and in retrospect, I was trained by the BBC. Although one had gone to drama school and stuff, there you were, and I was trained to be a TV actress, and so I have very fond memories. What about Brian Blessed in his lovely book? Because he talks about when he did something.
I haven't read his book. I don't think he's read mine either, so it doesn't matter.
Oh, it's fantastic. He tells this wonderful story of how the thing in the middle of the television centre, and that like the kids at university, that he'd climbed up and he'd put a pair of knickers on the top of it, or whatever it was.
Yeah, you would.
It was very much like your family, and that's why we'd all go to the BBC bar at lunchtime, because you were re-meeting all the sort of actors who were working at the time, and it was just very exciting, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah. And ATV didn't have that. They didn't have that sort of core, did they?
Not so much. No, they didn't. Because the first television I ever did was something called No Hiding Place with Raymond Francis, and it was with, indeed, I was going to say, I would say Johnny Briggs. I was going to say Mike Baldwin, but Johnny Briggs, and I played. That was the first television part I ever did, and I learned a lot from that. You were talking about how to act on TV. I'd done lots of theatre. But the first time I was on television, it was appalling. No one had told me. I was pulling faces. I don't know what I thought I was doing. Well, I suppose I come straight from the stage, so I didn't know. But then you did know, then you worked and you found out. And people like Barry Letts, who were wonderful, sort of tell you, just think it, don't bother about, if you're thinking it right, the expression will come right with your eyes, whatever.
Yeah.
Right. Now, on Doctor Who, yes, you both appeared in episodes which now no longer exist due to the BBC's junking in the 70s. What are your feelings on that as actors, and the fact that it was your work?
Most of my career actually was wiped. There's very little left. I mean, before I got into Doctor Who, I was already quite a well-known young actress. I was. Did you know that? Yes, I was. I did
Yes.
Wednesday plays and blah blah blah.
Yes,
And I was getting
yes.
already up there, and
Yes,
all wiped, all
yes,
gone.
I remember you. Yes.
Nobody knows.
Yes, I think I was a bit in love with you in those days. You know.
They all were.
Very
actually.
beautiful. Very beautiful. Very beautiful.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah.
Yes,
But
I
it's all
remember you.
gone. There's
I remember
nothing.
you.
There's nothing left. You know.
Well, I don't.
So I want to say that I really appreciate the appreciation from the fans, because you don't have anything to see that I did.
But
Thank you for coming.
I think I, on the whole, been lucky. You probably know better than I do. Most of my Doctor Who stuff wasn't white. That's why it's been. I think nearly most of every story I did was been put out on video. I was rather lucky. I mean, some of it's been white, but not much. I don't think.
It's just the 60s episodes that you did.
In the 60s.
Yeah.
Well, you see, I'd only done what I'd done with. I didn't really start in 1970. You see, 69. So good timing or something like that, I suppose. There you are.
On that point, really, have you listened to the BBC Radio Collection's releases of such stories as The Macra Terror, The Web of Fear?
Yeah,
And do you feel that they come across well in that format?
I do. I was listening to the Highlanders. I was completely caught up. Something was happening. Something, people came to the door and they needed. And I was saying, hang on, I've got to hear what happens. Oh my God, this is so exciting. So no, I think they were really good stories, and they came over really well.
I haven't listened to The Web of Fear yet. I know it's been out, well, not that long, I suppose. The principal reason for that is because I'm a Luddite. I have to keep up with technology. I do not have the machinery to a Luddite. It's a wonderful word.
What does it mean?
I'm glad you asked me that, because I've got to try and remember the exact definition. It's someone who's like King Canute, trying to stop the tide of technology. Well, that's roughly
me too.
a Luddite. Well, because I don't understand. You see, I haven't got a DVD machine that they've done spare from space, so I don't know what that is like, because I haven't got the machinery. My wife, however, has got a CD, so I can hear Spectre of Landing Moor, which I did with Colin last year for Big Finish, and indeed The Web of Fear. But no, I haven't heard it yet, so I don't know. I must listen to it, mustn't I?
You certainly must. Finally, just before I hand over for a few questions, and going off the subject completely.
Oh, good.
Nicholas, you teased us earlier with talk of a new story.
Yes.
And I want to hear it.
Right. Well, actually, it isn't strictly to do with Doctor Who. It's the funniest job I had. I've had one of the funniest jobs I've had. I got a commercial last year. I don't often get commercials. And it was to play a David Attenborough type of explorer character. And it was filmed in 50 miles north of Madrid in pouring rain. Actually, it rained all day. I only had one day on it. And I had to be sitting on this little bit of wood, and he just arrived and he's seen a whole lot of, a gaggle of gorillas, and he's saying, this is so-and-so, this is so-and-so. And I think we've got a fairly typical lot here. And it was the picture of me, your aged president of DWS, crouching on this bit of wood, only to then be approached. I'm trying to remember the lines. I had to say some lines, which were quite funny. I say something like, well, this is a typical lot, and then I turn around and say, well, this is very strange, because it appears that a male gorilla appears to be on heat. And this male gorilla, and I say, it's very strange, because usually they only mate in summertime. And then, whereupon this gorilla, of course it's a guy in a suit, comes up behind me and starts touching me up and feeling me up and going, and doing the eyes, because you can do that. The particular mask they can do, you can do it electronically done. I think it's the funniest thing I've ever done. The idea of the brigadier sitting on this being goosed by a gorilla, It really made me laugh enormously at the end of that, because I thought that was a very funny job indeed. I don't think it'll ever be shown in this country, because it's for Spanish television. Now, you may wonder what this commercial was for. Well, it's for digital television. The only way I can understand how it could work with digital daytime television is that when this David Attenborough character says, in my experience, they only made it the summertime. Presumably they then say in Spanish, but you can watch digital television all year round or something. But that was, I thought, a very funny experience to be touched up and goosed by this gorilla, and it was a very long day, and I had to do 25 takes, you know, first of all being frightened, then being reluctant, and then having the expression, oh, well, will you be gentle with me, please, Mr. Gorilla, you know, something like that. So that was the story. I hadn't told that before. I told the Doctor Who magazine, but they sort of, they didn't elaborate. So I thought I would elaborate and tell you now, and this is the first time you've heard it. At least it's a new story anyway.
I look forward to seeing it.
Well, I don't know. I don't suppose it'll only be shown in Spain, I think. Unless someone finds it on the, what do they call it, internet? Oh, I don't understand all this. Adrian Hill. Well, I was in it for a very short time, 4 episodes only. We all got on pretty well. I mean, I got on very well with Peter, but I didn't get to know Adrian too well, because at that time I think Peter was more interested in Adrian than I was, so I thought I'd leave the field to him. I hope I haven't said anything wrong.
No, if you see me yawning, it's because I'm still jet lagged. It's nothing to do with what you're talking about.
So I can't remember that much. She was very pleasant, very sweet, and very gentle, I remember. She was very nice. But as I say, I think, I don't know what I was... I only knew her for a very short time. Anyway.
Another question over here.
Nick, I'd like to ask you a question about Battlefield itself and how it felt coming back to play the Brigadier after all those years, and whether the magic was still there.
Oh, I didn't hear the last sentence, sorry.
About...
Yeah, I heard that.
Okay.
About Battlefield, and whether when you came back after all those years, the magic was still there.
The magic was still there. Well, only the viewer will decide that. Coming back after, yes, quite a few years indeed. Well, I hope the magic was still there, although I've grown much more portly, and getting portlier probably. Yes, to do it was still, oh yes, that was magical, because it was nice to come back, and then originally the idea I was going to be killed off, and you know, John Turner said, shall we kill you off? And then we thought we would, then they decided not to. It was, yeah, the magic was still there, because Sylvester was wonderful, and